Jin finally speaks. This is Jin's message to Jungkook that makes ARMYs cry. A surprising moment finally happened. Kim Seokjin, or better known as Jin from BTS, finally spoke up after fans had been waiting so long for his honest and meaningful voice. But what stunned the public was not only that he spoke, but because the message was specifically addressed to Jungkook. The question is, what did Jin say that made ARMYs around the world shed tears? This statement emerged in an unexpected opportunity. Jin, who has been known as an encouraging figure and an older brother figure to the BTS members, conveyed an emotional message that was not only intended for Jungkook personally, but also stirred the feelings of millions of fans. The message was short, concise, but full of meaning and expression that could shake the hearts of those who heard it. For ARMYs, Jin and Jungkook are two figures with very strong bonds. Jin, as the oldest member, is often seen as a protector and older brother who always provides guidance. Jungkook, the group's beloved magne, grew up under the direction and attention of his hyungs, especially Jin. So, when this message appeared, many felt as if they were witnessing a new chapter in the emotional journey of the two. Jin didn't just speak as a fellow group member, but as an older brother who has great hopes for his younger brother Dae. In his message, Jin mentioned the struggles, fatigue, and great responsibilities that Jungkook now bears. He seemed to want to remind him that an artist's journey is not only about the spotlight, but also about taking care of oneself, one's heart, and one's dreams. His words were simple, but his intonation implied a sincerity that is hard to match. No wonder the fans who listened immediately felt carried away in emotion. ARMY's reactions were unstoppable. Social media was filled with expressions of sadness, emotion, and even pride. Many admitted to crying just by hearing one core sentence from Jin, because that sentence seemed to summarize all the dynamics that had ever been seen between him and Jungkook. Some called this message a golden moment that will continue to be remembered in BTS history, while others considered it a real proof of how deep the affection that exists between the members. This excitement is even greater because the moment came at the right time. Jungkook himself is in an important phase in his career, with various major achievements he has achieved as a soloist and as part of BTS. Public pressure, high expectations, and the responsibility to maintain the group's good name are certainly not easy. So when Jin appeared with a message of encouragement, it was like an invisible hug that directly touched the hearts of many people. More than just a personal message, what Jin conveyed also became a reflection for the fans. Many ARMYs felt as if the message was also intended for those who are struggling in their respective lives. Jin's words transcend the boundaries of the stage and celebrities, transforming into the voice of a friend or family who is comforting. This is what makes the fans' tears flow even more, because they find an emotional closeness that an artist rarely has towards their audience. However, the big question still echoes. Why did Jin choose to convey that message now? Is this related to Jungkook's personal situation, or does Jin just want to make sure that his younger brother is always strong in facing the storm? Speculation is emerging, but one thing is certain: the message did not appear without a reason. Jin is known as a figure who rarely speaks at length about personal matters, so every sentence is always considered special and full of meaning. From an emotional point of view, this moment also confirms how BTS is not just a music group, but a family bound by deep relationships. ARMYs who have witnessed their journey from the beginning feel that Jin's message to Jungkook is a real picture of the bond of brotherhood that has been forged for many years. There is no pretense, no forced script. Everything flows so honestly and naturally. Now, Jin's message continues to be replayed, shared, and remembered by millions of fans around the world. Every word that comes out of his mouth becomes a topic of discussion, analysis, and even inspiration. Many ARMYs wrote that they felt stronger, braver, and more ready to face life's challenges after hearing the message. In other words, the effect caused by Jin transcends the boundaries of the relationship between artist and fan. turning into a collective force that moves emotions. It is no exaggeration to call this moment one of the most emotional events in BTS' journey. Jin, with all his charisma and sincerity, managed to convey something simple but with a broad impact. Jungkook, on the other hand, received a message full of love that could become a solid foundation in his steps forward. And armies, as witnesses, will always remember how one sentence from Jin was able to shake the hearts of the world. The question finally returns to us all. Do we really understand the depth of meaning of that message? Or do we only see it as a mere interaction between two BTS members? Whatever the answer, one thing is clear: Jin has left an emotional mark that will not be easily erased. His message to Jungkook is proof that words, if conveyed sincerely, can become a force that transcends boundaries. But behind the rush of emotions that was created, an important question arises that should not be ignored. Is the message that Jin supposedly conveyed to Jungkook really real, or is it just the result of media engineering and content creators to attract public attention? Are we witnessing an authentic moment born from the sincerity of an older brother to his younger brother, or are we instead trapped in a vortex of narratives deliberately built to create sensation? The viral phenomenon involving the big names of BTS, especially Jin and Jungkook, often becomes fertile ground for the birth of dramatic content. Not a few accounts on TikTok, YouTube, or Twitter package video clips, emotional captions, or poetic narratives to attract ARMY's attention. The question is, are we, as viewers, always able to distinguish between what is fact and what is just emotional interpretation? Let's reflect for a moment. If it is true that Jin said that meaningful message, why until now has there been no official release from the agency confirming it? Is it possible that the statement is only part of an interview excerpt that was then exaggerated by social media? Or even, could this narrative be created by certain parties in order to maintain public attention so that it remains attached to BTS? This question becomes even more important when we see how quickly an issue can spread. In just a matter of hours, video clips or texts containing Jin's message to Jungkook have been circulating on thousands of accounts with different narratives. Some call it a farewell, some interpret it as an expression of support, and not a few package it as if Jin is crying. But is it true that Jin shed tears at that time? Or is that just the effect of the narrative added by the content creator? At this point, we must dare to ask more critical questions. How often do we as armies, or even as consumers of digital news, fall into the emotional traps that are deliberately created? Aren't tears, emotions, and drama the easiest elements to attract attention? And isn't the entertainment media industry often playing in this way? Of course, there is nothing wrong when a fan feels touched or cries hearing a message that is believed to have come from Jin. That is a human reaction born from an emotional attachment to his idol. But are we satisfied enough to just stop at emotions without tracing whether the message really came out of Jin's mouth? Are we willing to let ourselves be led by a narrative that may be fictional? This is the big challenge in the digital era: how to balance the love for idols with a critical attitude towards the information circulating. We can believe the message as Jin's sincere expression, but we also need to open a skeptical space to ask, where does this source come from? Is there any original recording evidence that can be verified? Why does it only appear on social media without any official clarification? Furthermore, this phenomenon also illustrates how strong the power of social media is in shaping public opinion. TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and various other platforms are able to package an issue so convincingly that the public does not have time to question its truth.